Colorado's governor announces the statewide mask mandate, the one he said was unenforceable and might not help. The anti-masker who leads Republicans in the state legislature threatens to sue the governor over the right to spread respiratory droplets. A smart question from next viewer about whatever happened to the flu this year. The jury has been out in Colorado for months. No jury trials because of the shutdown and social distancing. That's about to change. People are being called back for jury duty. And the hidden issue with going back to school, it's convincing older substitute teachers to risk the virus. All that is next. Anyone intent on spraying their respiratory droplets onto their unsuspecting neighbors inside a public place has 6 more hours to do it legally. As of midnight, Colorado joins a number of other states with statewide mask mandates. Democratic Governor Jared Polis today attempted a somewhat awkward walk-back/rollout of this policy. It was just days ago when he was explaining why a statewide mask mandate is unenforceable and might not do any good. For months, the governor steadfastly maintained that position against a statewide mask mandate. So the very first question today was, what changed?
The two areas that convinced me that this would work is looking at the impact that mask ordinances have had, increasing mask wearing 15% over areas that have not had those ordinances. The state has a few ways to work with local law enforcement around enforcement. This creates a nexus to violating state laws around trespassing, which if somebody were to run into a store naked or without a mask, they are trespassing.
To be clear, Governor said, or it's an and. They want you to have both the mask and clothing covering your parts. You need both. I'm sure this was unintentional, but this is the second time now that the governor has taken sweeping action just as Douglas County's Republican commissioners tried to avoid a public health order. Perhaps you remember this happened before with the stay-home order. And now, just as Doug Coe tries to escape a mask mandate locally, the governor drops one at the statewide level. Interestingly, those same Douglas County commissioners put out a statement this afternoon encouraging people to comply with the governor's mandate. So you'll hear the public health experts say that wearing a mask is not political. The governor said today that wearing a mask is not political, but sheriffs in Weld and El Paso counties are already out saying that they are not going to issue any citations related to enforcement of this mask order. Republican District Attorney George Brockler, Douglas County, questioned whether entering a public place without a mask is really trespassing, as the governor said. He tweeted that at worst it'd be a misdemeanor. Brockler said he's not certain that the governor's command creates a criminal offense unless the state health department follows that up with an order. And then you have GOP House Minority Leader Patrick Neville, Colorado's highest-ranking elected anti-masker. He called the order a power grab by the governor, said that it's a violation of civil liberties, and that he intends to sue. Most Coloradans, if the surveys are accurate, did not respond to the governor's announcement today with such frenzy and vitriol. If the surveys are accurate, most Coloradans said, all right, adjusted their mask, and went about their days. Because the survey showed that Coloradans are, in fact, wearing masks when they're in indoor public places like grocery stores. Now, the governor said today that he's seen numbers that suggest that mask wearing goes up about 15% when there is an order. So if you take all the Coloradans who are already just wearing masks as a courtesy to their neighbors and layer on another 15%, it would appear that the very loud people who think that some folded fabric is the only thing that's keeping us from falling into the depths of communism, that they're not just outnumbered. But in Colorado, it seems like they are pretty well ignored. Let's take a look at the numbers. State processed nearly 11,000 tests yesterday. We're averaging more than 9,100 a day lately. That's our fastest clip yet. And our positivity rate, the percentage of them coming back positive, it hovers below the 5% mark. That's what we want. After a small drop yesterday, hospitalizations from COVID-19 were up in Colorado again today. 260 Coloradans are currently in the hospital with COVID. 36 patients have been discharged or transferred in the last day. Look at the case count. This is our least important indicator, but we've been sharing it with you because it gives you an idea of how it's spreading in the community. 600 new cases today. Our 7-day moving average is now 457 cases a day. The last time we saw that level of community spread was at the beginning of May. Tonight's next question comes from a viewer named Chris. Chris wants a clearer picture of how COVID-19 compares with the flu, specifically how many people were hospitalized with the flu and how many died from it this year. Chris, your question caused me to learn something today, and I'm always grateful for that. I learned that the state of Colorado is not required to track and report adult flu deaths. The CDC comes up with its national number based on modeling and something they call the deaths to hospitalization ratio. The CDC estimates that 568 Coloradans died from the flu or pneumonia in the year 2018. Those are the most recent numbers. So now, how does that compare to COVID? It's not even close. In the last 4 months alone, there have been nearly triple that number of deaths from COVID-19 in Colorado, more than 1,600. During this most recent flu season, September to May, the state health department estimates that they had 3,500 people hospitalized with the flu. In just half that time, far more, 5,900 have been hospitalized in our state with COVID-19. I think some of the talk about the pandemic is so all-consuming that we can forget that there are a lot of Coloradans who are dealing with very serious medical issues of other types. And they're doing it in a world that has been scrambled and disconnected by the pandemic, like the Harrison family in Arvada. They just welcomed a newborn and then got a really difficult diagnosis the next day. Our Marshall Zellinger takes us through their journey.
I'm sorry, you have butterflies living in your ears.
Playing doctor with Dad. A normal kid moment that has a new meaning in the Harrison household. 6-month-old Kieran and 4-year-old Kennedy are both willing participants in the game.
You were playing doctor, huh?
But it's big sister Kinley who wants to be a nurse.
I think that was her way of kind of getting more excited about all the appointments.
For the family full of Ks,
We started noticing some speech delays.
it was obvious something was not okay.
Kinley definitely is aware that she can't do things the same way as the other kids.
By time Kennedy was around 3 years old, she started showing some of the same signs.
That takes us back to the day after Kieran was born.
During that telehealth appointment is when our geneticist told us that the girls had GM1.
GM1, gangliosidosis, a genetic disorder that destroys nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord.
Eventually, it will rob them of the ability to walk. It'll rob them of their ability to talk. It will eventually take their lives.
Kinley and Kennedy are at the Children's Hospital today.
Despite COVID-19, the girls still have to show up in person for certain doctor's appointments.
Which animal pops out?
On Wednesday, it was an eye exam.
And those are all really to get some baselines in place to understand what the progression is year over year.
So what about their youngest sister?
She does not have the disease, nor is she a carrier.
COVID-19 has allowed the family to spend more time together. It's also just about the only health issue that's got anyone's attention, and they want to make sure people don't forget about girls like Kinley and Kennedy.
Enzyme replacement therapy, substrate suppression therapy, those are things that can be accelerated, that we can get access to if we can fundraise enough money for it.
They have a shot at life still if we can advance some of these things as quickly as possible.
They want a life where Kennedy can still swing, where Kinley can still tease the family dog, and where Kieran will still have 2 older sisters. For Next, I'm Marshall Zellinger.
You can learn more about what the Harrison family is doing to lead the way into expanding research for GM1 by going to Marshall's article on 9news.com. The pandemic brought jury trials in Colorado to a halt for several months. Can't get much social distance in a courtroom, let alone a jury box. But defendants, they've got a constitutional right to those trials, so the court system in Denver and elsewhere around our state is now issuing summonses to jurors once again, promising protection against the virus in the courtroom. Today, I spoke with Denver's Chief Judge Michael Martinez about how they can balance health and justice.
Our case count is on the rise, our rates are on the rise, and we're seeing more public health restrictions, not less. Why is this the time to have people back in courtrooms?
Well, I want to make sure that we're clear that we are being attentive to the public health concerns. And when people come into jury service now, what they'll find is a completely different experience, Kyle, than what they had in the past.
Smaller jury pools with mandated spacing and sanitization. You could get called for jury service now, and with only a few weeks' notice, too.
Our system doesn't work without their participation, and we will do all our best to keep them safe.
If you're at high risk for COVID-19 or you're caring for someone who is, you can use your one annual postponement that anyone can request for any reason.
We understand that there are some folks who are not able to serve under these circumstances, and we recognize and appreciate that, and we will honor that.
Denver's Chief Judge Martinez and his colleagues have immense individual control of their courtroom, so it's really up to them what happens if someone inside catches COVID-19, a juror or an attorney or a witness.
If something were to happen of that nature, all our judges are experienced, and they understand that there would be a matter that they would have to address. And so typically it would be on a case-by-case basis.
Mask wearing will be the rule. But in a place where faces are constantly being scrutinized for honesty, Chief Judge Martinez says he expects that there are going to be legal arguments about who wears a mask and when. One option, he said, would be court participants wearing face shields instead of masks. Can you imagine that look? If you're called for jury duty, do not expect a health screening or a temperature check for fever at the door. The judge explained to me that there are constitutional issues about having to allow people to enter a courthouse. You can see more of that in my full, unedited interview with the Chief Judge. It's on the next YouTube channel.
And so if they would call me, I would certainly not go. That would even be a thought for me.
Colorado doesn't have substitute teachers to spare. Add the risk of COVID-19 for an often older group of educators, and you can see why schools are so worried. That's next. If teachers contract COVID-19, it's going to be substitute teachers that step into the classroom in their place. Think about who makes up that cohort. A lot of them are retired or at least older teachers and perhaps might be unwilling to take on that personal risk of COVID-19. Arnusha Roy looks at the potential for a looming substitute teacher shortage.
For 14 years,
Church members invited me because she said they really needed subs.
Melba Salter was ready to answer the call to substitute teach.
The secretary will call me in the mornings because somebody didn't show up or something happened.
But now,
if they would call me, I would certainly not go.
Because of COVID-19.
I care so much about the school and the staff and the kids.
We already faced substitute shortage in Denver Public School, and I believe this is not just an issue specific to DPS, but it's also pretty much an issue in many other districts.
Henry Roman with the Denver Classroom Teachers Association thinks the pandemic will only make it worse.
Most of our substitutes happen to be retired educators, and by definition, they are in that cohort or that group that faces more risks with this pandemic.
Denver Public Schools plan right now offers both in-person and remote learning. So far, 453 teachers out of 5,600 educators have requested an accommodation for health concerns, either for themselves or someone they live with. The district said they've never had a 100% fill rate for subs and are working to come up with a plan for guest teachers that still follow health guidelines. In Jefferson County, that's also offering both in-person and remote learning. The district said it believes they can cover absences, but knows the situation is fluid, which is why they're looking for additional substitute teachers.
The subs that I've been talking to, they are highly unlikely to come to school.
The issue is who will say yes.
I can't put myself at risk.
So practices of the past, like combining a classroom if a teacher is out, not really an option, right? Because of the health guidelines. In Jefferson County, subs can actually pick what kind of teaching do you want to do? Do you want it in person? Do you want it remote? And ultimately, both school districts said that they are working on backup plans because, Kyle, they are also paying attention to what's happening with the COVID-19 cases.
Anusha, first off, welcome back. We missed you. And second, when you substitute on this program, you do it remotely. Couldn't substitute teachers just sub remotely?
Yeah, well, it's good to be back remotely as well. And yeah, I mean, that is something people could be more comfortable with. But Henry, who you just heard from, said it also means that all of these substitute teachers will have to be up to speed with the different technology platforms being used. And it's very different taking over a classroom in person versus remote. I mean, this is a whole new landscape everybody's just trying to navigate.
For sure. All right. Welcome back. Good to see you. Erin Martinez has spent the better part of 3 years making sure that what happened to her family never happens to yours. Now, her family is being used against her wishes in a political attack ad. That's next. The wife and sister of 2 men killed in a home explosion in Firestone is begging Republicans to take her out of their attack ad. The deaths of Mark Martinez and Joey Irwin are the focus of a new ad that's running against John Hickenlooper in the Senate race. The ad from the National Republican Senatorial Committee claims that Hickenlooper let Anadarko Petroleum off the hook for that incident because they gave donations to his governor's office. Erin Martinez released a statement saying, quote, "My family and I have worked extremely hard to create positive changes that will keep my story from happening to anyone else, and in doing so, honoring the memories of Mark and Joey. Not a single day goes by that we're not heartbroken and struck with unimaginable grief. This ad uses my story in a negative light and disgraces the memory of Mark and Joey."
Cloudy skies this evening and relief from the heat in the form of thunder showers after a day with temperatures back in the 90s. 95 today, and we go warmer on Friday. Thunderstorms are moving from the southwest toward the northeast. Non-severe storms, but moving slow enough that 1 or 2 may have a bit of wind and also some small hail, along with maybe some heavy rain, which would be a good thing. All of this moisture moves out tonight with the wind shift. We have a drier day tomorrow, a sunny day, and a mostly warmer day with temperatures just a hair above what we saw today. So 63 tonight with diminishing thunder showers tomorrow, hot high of 97, 20% chance of a late day storm both Friday and Saturday, a better chance of thunder showers on Sunday afternoon.
I should not be surprised, but I am. You did it again. That and your feedback next. That sound you hear in the distance, like clapping, that's applause for you, next viewers, from the people of Morgan County. It's unbelievable week after week, but in 24 hours, you have raised almost $39,000 to help rebuild the nonprofit sector in that county on the Eastern Plains that was hit so hard by COVID-19. A lot of their nonprofit work and funding turned to dealing with the pandemic, and they just got drained. And you have done something exceptional for them. Hey, if you have $5 and you want to get in on our Feel Good Project of the Week, 303-871-1491. If you text the word thanks, we'll send you back the link. We would love to have $5 for the effort. It's unbelievable the way the next viewers have shown up for Morgan County this week. Huge appreciation to you for that. See you next time.